We're going to talk a little bit about user testing, and we'll make a very simple testing form to go along with the Maze project for our user testing session today. I'm going to open up a Google form first. So there's a link here that just goes to forms.google.com. I'm assuming most of you guys have a Gmail account. So if you go to that link and you're signed in, you'll be able to create a form. If you don't have a Google account, you can create one. It's free. So you may need to do that. But you can see when I go over to Google Forms, if you're logged in, you'll see like your little Google account guy here, and you'll be able to create a new form. We're going to keep it pretty simple for today. We're just going to ask a few questions just to get used to the process. So I'm going to leave this here. I'm going to create a blank form and just give it a title. So I'll call this Maze Game Feedback. And if you have a title for your game, you could use that instead. You can use whatever you prefer for the title. And so when we're user testing, when we're making a video game, user testing is very important. It's something that, because games are interactive, it's not like making a film or a painting or something like that. Although, of course, when you make a film, you do have pre-screenings and you do get feedback during the process. But with games, it's even more important to get feedback because sometimes games don't really work or things that are supposed to happen don't really happen. This is something I do a lot in my own practice. I'm actually not going to go tonight, but there's a game testing event that I go to most months at this a bar in Brooklyn called Wonderville. I'll show you guys what this looks like. This is this last Tuesday of the month playtest. This happens to be today. But it's an event for game developers to go to, and you bring a game, and people come and will test your game and give you feedback. And I go pretty frequently. I'm not going tonight because I don't really have time, but it's fun to go even if you don't have a game because you can test other people's games and meet people who are also making games as well. And this bar Wonderville, it's started by a friend of mine. It's like a video game bar, so they have a lot of like arcade cabinets set up that are free. So it's kind of fun to go there, and it's not like old classic games. It's like new games. It's like new games created by indie developers mostly. Anyway, this is a little bit of a tangent, but it's an important part of the sort of process of creating a game, and it's a good way to build community around being a game developer and creating projects and stuff. So anyway, it's very important as a game developer and designer to get feedback on your projects. So when we're creating our form, we want to think about what we're testing for. Part of what we're testing for is just playability. Can you play the game? And then part of what we're testing for is bugs. So those are kind of different things. Bugs are when the game doesn't work the way it's supposed to. So you can see an example of that here. Playability is more, play testing and playability is more about when the game works the way that you intend it to, but it doesn't make sense or people aren't clear on what they're supposed to be doing. So that's the kind of feedback that I get a lot is I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, but that's an important thing to figure out as you're working on a game. So one thing that we want to kind of test for, especially in the beginning of creating a game, is does the player understand what they're supposed to do, how to use the basic controls and movement, but also what are the basic goals of the game, what are they supposed to be going for. We also want to test for play time. And one of the things that we want to keep in mind when we're testing is that all of these things are relative. If you're making a game that is supposed to be short, then a short play time is a good thing. If you think that your game should take like 20 minutes to play and it takes an hour, then that'll tell you that your expectation doesn't match what people are experiencing. Difficulty is another good thing to test for. Again, it's relative. You might be making a game that isn't supposed to be hard. And so if people find it difficult, then that'll tell you something. If you want it to be hard, then you would expect it, people to rate it more, to be more difficult. So we can see in some of these examples, there's both quantitative and qualitative feedback, and we want to try to get a little bit of both of those things. Quantitative feedback is anything that has like a chart or a number that we're going for. So difficulty, play time, those are good examples of quantitative feedback. It's still relative. It doesn't mean the highest number is good or the lowest number is good. We still have to have like a range for what we expect and what the outcome is. But it's numbers that we can kind of visualize and create a rating system or something like that. Qualitative feedback is more verbal or written feedback. So this is more like longer responses, more free-form responses and things like that. So for our form for today, we just want to do something pretty basic. So we want to ask if the player ran into any bugs, and if so, you can describe the bug. So we'll start there. So for creating my Google form, let's put this as the title here. And for the form description, let's put a link to the game itself so you can get back there if you need to. So I'm going to go to itch and get a link for my game. Here it is. So I'll just copy a link here. And so in the description, I'll just say, please test my game. And then I'll put a link there, and I'll just click this link button to make sure it's a real link. So we'll link to the form from the game, but this way you can kind of go back and forth so you won't get confused. So for the first question, we'll do a yes or no question. So it'll be multiple choice. So when you're making a Google form, if you haven't used it before, it's pretty easy. You can just make different types of questions, and it'll also try to guess what type of question you're making depending on what you write in the question box. But you can make specific questions by adding the plus, and then you can change the question type with this drop down. So for our first question, let's say, I added another question by accident. Let's delete that one. Okay, did you have any, or let's say, did the game have any bugs? And so these are unintended problems with the game. So we can say yes or no. And you can also specify whether a question is required or not. So then for our next question, we can say, if yes, please describe the bug. Or I guess it could be multiple bugs. And so you can see Google is already guessing, probably because I used the word describe, that this should be a long paragraph answer. This one I won't make required, because if they said no for the first question, then they won't have anything to say here. So then we can ask about the playtime. So I'll add another question and say, how long did you play the game? And let's see if it, so it says short answer, but I don't want a short answer for this. I want a scale. You could also do multiple choice. Actually, I think I want to do multiple choice because I think I want to have options that are not going to be a scale. So for this project, this is a pretty limited project. So the smallest amount I would imagine would be less than 1 minute. And then I would guess for this project, probably like 2 to 5 minutes is a good amount of time. So that's kind of maybe what our target would be, unless you made something much more, with a lot more components. Then let's say like 5 to 15 minutes. And then I doubt anybody's going to be playing for longer than 15 minutes, so I'll say longer than 15 minutes. And so that should be a good range. You could adjust that a little bit depending on what you expect your playtime to be. And then, you know, what we want to see is that the result matches the expectation. It doesn't really matter if it's the higher number in this case. So how long did you play the game? And then let's ask them to rate the difficulty. So we can use a scale for this one. Rate the difficulty of the... And so it already is saying, it already is guessing that this is a linear scale, probably because I used rate. And so we'll say easy for 1 and hard for 5. So, you know, 1 is easy, 5 is the hardest. And let's make that a required question, and let's make the how long did you play required. I forgot to do that. Okay. And then let's just have one more question just as kind of a general feedback. So we'll say, oh, whoops. Let's put this at the end. Okay, so please tell me any feedback you have for the game. And we'll make that a required paragraph. Actually, another question I want, since we're just sort of creating our first game, is did you finish the game? So we'll have the difficulty, but then did you get to the end? So I'm going to add another question. Did you reach the end of the level? Since we just have one level. And so this will just be yes or no. Okay. So I think that's good. So you can preview your form using this little eyeball button and see what it'll look like. And we're not going to ask for any identifying information, so the responses will be anonymous. And so if if your form looks good, you can click publish and say anybody with a link. And then we just want to get a link and put it on our itch page. So to get a link, I can go to share and copy responder link. And then I'll go to my itch page and go to edit game, and I'll just edit the description. So under the details, I'll say, please give me feedback here, and just paste that Google Forms link. You could also make this text a link. That might look better. So we could just select this text and put a link here. Maybe open link in a new tab and save this. And so now when you guys go to test each other's games, you can start at the jam page. And when you go to the itch page, the jam page for the game won't have the full description. So what you'll need to do is go to view game page, and then you'll be able to click on the feedback link there. And so yeah, that's what we'll do for our user testing. Everybody can just play each other's game, fill out the feedback form. We should be able to do that, within the next hour and 20 minutes. One note for the Mac games. Usually, it depends on what version of Apple you're on. I just updated this computer, so it's using Sequoia, which is the latest version of Mac. It used to be that, so this is Athena's game, and I'll show you guys what happens. So if I download, there's a few things that we have to go through, because since we're just creating these projects in Godot and we're not publishing them through like Steam or Apple or something like that, the computer is going to be suspicious that it's like malware or whatever. So there's a couple of things that we have to check for. So when I try to download it from Itch, this is also new to Itch. I just saw this for the first time recently. So this is going to say you can't download this thing. But if you go to this drop down, I understand the risks, let me download anyway, you can download it. So that's the first thing that we have to go through. So then the game will be in your downloads folder, and you can unzip it, and now I can see the game here. On Mac, it used to be that if you right click and open, it'll let you open it. But now it says it cannot verify the game, and it's not going to let me open it. So it used to be if you right click and open a couple times, it'll let you do it. It's not letting me do that right now. So what I've noticed, what we have to do is first you have to try to open the game, and it's going to say you can't do that, and don't move it to the trash, just click done. So then if you go to system settings on Mac, and this is kind of annoying, but this is just what we're going to have to do. If you go to privacy and security and you scroll down here, it's going to know that you are trying to open this program, and you can tell it to open it anyway. And it's still going to try to tell you not to, but just click open anyway. And then put in the password for the computer, which is just BMCC. And finally, it's going to let you open the game.
With, Unreal and Epic a few times.
Yeah. Any Mac program, it's going to make you do that stuff if it's not like an official program. So that's a little annoying, but once you do that once, you'll get used to the process, and we'll just do that for now. Maybe there's a way to get around that. I'm not really sure, but maybe I'll try to figure that out for next time. On Windows, you shouldn't have any issues with that, but if you do run into any issues, let me know, and I'll take a look at it. But yeah, that's it for now. So I'll stop here, and we'll do